Welcome to Wellbeing Wizards. My name's G.
And my name is Todd.
And we facilitate well-being by sharing stories and insights for personal growth.
So G, what are we talking about today?
Thanks for asking, Todd. In today's episode, we're going to be exploring loss, but a different type of loss, that loss of purpose. And as you know, Todd, we've been seeing a lot of this through our wellbeing service of late. So lockdown has created a sense of stillness, something I called the Road Runner effect. Do you remember Road Runner?
Oh, I love the Road Runner. That was an awesome cartoon.
Can you remember the sound effect?
Yes, but I won't say I'll be very good at saying it right now.
Okay. Well, let me just explain what I mean by the Road Runner effect. Many of us get up, get to work, and we don't really question why. So we end up on this conveyor belt of life, doing things and losing sight of our purpose and our passion. And what lockdown has done has brought us into our homes, so our homes have now become our offices, and slowly but surely our heart and our mind has caught up with us, and we've started to question, what's this all about?
Is this what we should be doing?
Yeah, why am I getting up in the morning?
Yeah. And I think it's created in a very compressed time frame. You know, in some cases, we see examples of, you coming to in a later life decision to say, okay, what am I doing now?
Yeah.
But what lockdown is, it's compressed all this time frame to get very, very short time. You're going, okay, now things are completely changed. What I used to do every single day, I'm not actually doing that.
Yeah.
I've been restricted in what I could or couldn't do.
That's it, Todd. They've been forced to think about their purpose, and that's what we're going to really touch on today.
Beautiful.
So let's take a deeper dive, Todd. How do we define purpose?
You mean purpose for being on the planet?
Yes.
Okay.
Our life purpose.
Let's break that down. What are your thoughts, G?
So purpose pivots around many factors, but the essence of it all boils down to what really motivates us and gives our life meaning. For example, for some people, purpose is connected to their vocation.
Or their job.
Yeah, their job.
Yeah.
What brings them satisfaction in life.
Yeah.
Or?
Relationships.
That's a good one.
The quality of relationships.
Absolutely.
Not just your family relationship, but work colleagues as well.
Yeah.
So all those relationships that you build up over time can give you meaning and purpose.
Absolutely.
What else we got, G?
We've got time and money, freedom.
Super important, because in some cases, why are you going to do the job for?
Yeah.
Because you're effectively giving away your job time for money.
Or
that's the exchange, isn't it?
Yeah. Or how we want to spend our time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and the other one that we're going to touch on, Todd, is health. And
how important is health?
right, and so for many people, purpose is linked or defined by their health, because health is the greatest wealth. And I think a lot of people that we've been seeing coming through the wellbeing service, this is what's brought them in, because they've been suffering from a lot of the symptoms that we've seen, things like the stress, the anxiety, yeah, inability to cope with the pressures.
Sleeplessness.
Oh God, that's a big one. Yeah.
Because obviously we've seen a shift, right? Because if you were doing a certain job, you now can't do that job anymore. So now you've got to do a job which has got some shift work involved.
Yeah.
So now you've got to change your normal hours, what they were previously. So yeah, that's been very important for people.
That's right, Todd. But looking at our statistics, 60% of the people that we're seeing through our doors actually have been referred because of low mood and depression, linked to that common underlying reason, which is lack of purpose.
Yeah, and I just want to point out there as well is that one other thing is changes in nutrition as a result of the change in purpose, as the shift.
That's an interesting one.
It is.
What do you mean by that?
Well, if you're now working from home, as an example, right, you're now closer to the fridge than you've ever been.
Oh, yes.
So
Comfort eating.
Comfort eating.
Yeah.
Cakes, biscuits. You can now. The fridge is right there. You just walk over there and you're there. So then you're back to your desk. You're sitting down.
Yeah.
And then we're seeing issues with diabetes, obesity.
Yeah. And it comes down again to that core inner voice that we're ignoring, right? Human nature is we will always run away from whatever we have to deal with or get busy with doing something instead of dealing with that core question that keeps coming up within us, which is, what am I doing this for?
Correct.
Right? So we'll reach for comfort food, pretend that we're busy, filling up time. So that we don't have to sit in the stillness and listen to that conversation in our heart and mind. And there's real conflict. A lot of our patients that come through have this real conflict between what their mind is telling them to do and what their purpose and their passion is. And they don't know how to have that conversation.
Yeah, it's super challenging to actually start to have that conversation.
Yeah, so I really feel privileged a lot of the times that we're offering this service as a soundboard for them in a non-judgmental way, just to hear them so that they can speak their truth.
Correct.
And realise their purpose, because we all know, innately we all know, it's just having that time and space to vocalize it.
Yeah, it's super important. Now, one of the things that we've seen with lockdowns is that, as I said before, it's been compressed, right? But also there's a flip side to that as well, isn't it? By the lockdown happening, people have now had the time, if you like, in some instances that I've seen, to actually reassess whether what they were doing previously was what they want to do. And with that time that they had in that lockdown period, obviously not for everybody, but in that time they were actually able to take a breath.
Yeah.
Because you were talking about before with the road run effect, we're just continually going 100 miles an hour, run at 100 miles an hour, and then suddenly stopping and then dealing with everything that comes to that.
Yeah. So I think what you're trying to say there, Todd, is for many people, lockdown has been a bit of a relief because they've found themselves working from home and more comfortable with the work-life balance. So they've really been able to manage that. And I think now that they're feeling more stressed, having to go back to the workplace because it's actually served them. Lockdown has served them.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to see this dichotomy between the two halves of the population, to speak.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's also similar for those people who have taken early retirement now through lockdown, in that, retirements come early, B, what's their purpose?
Yeah, and I've seen instances where people are also coming close to retirement and really reassessing that with all the information they've now got as to, okay, well, I can't really travel at the moment. So people might have thought, well, retire, now I can go and travel the world. I can do whatever I want to do. But restrictions still in place across a lot of countries.
Yeah.
That sort of option's being taken away in some respects. So it's also a worrying time. There's some anxiety and stress around that. And you wouldn't think that if you think, like, I've been working all my life, I'm going to do something else now, which is going to be awesome. But there's a real challenge for people to really address that.
Yeah.
And that's where stress and anxiety comes in, worry comes in. Well, what am I now going to do?
Absolutely. But we're here to facilitate that.
Yes, we are, G. Purpose isn't just about labels, though, is it, G?
No, it's not, Todd, because labels change over the course of our life. For example, I'm a daughter, but through being a daughter, I then became a wife, and now an ex-wife, and then a mother. So our roles change throughout our life, as will our responsibilities, which may define our purpose, but that's not really our core purpose.
Well, it's an important point to note. There's core values in it, right?
Yeah.
So when you're defining your purpose, you say, well, what are my core values? You're generally not going to stray away from your core values.
No, or those things that really ignite that conversation with the heart. For me, it's, injustice. Certain injustices really evoke my fire, and I know, right, that's the cause, and that defines my purpose. So, for example, the role that we're doing now, this is an SOS situation, and I know in an SOS situation, there are things that I can do to make a difference to other people's lives. Hence the reason why we've designed Wellbeing Wizards.
Correct.
So Todd, how do we begin to uncover or rediscover our purpose when we're at crossroads? Do we have some examples to share?
Yes, we do, G. So the 4 words that I always start with is, well, what would you love? Now, if you think about that from a simplistic perspective, it's okay, you've been doing these things for a long period of time. In this example, an individual was going to work every day, and then lockdown came in, and now they're working from home. But what that did, they were able to reconnect with spending time with family. And then sort of the work was sort of like, okay, I have to do work because I've got to pay the bills and so on and so forth. But I feel more connected to my family than I've been previously. So the shift there is, what would you love and how can I do more of it? So then it became a question of, well, okay, right now, I'm not spending enough time with my kids, or I wasn't spending enough time with my kids. It's given me the opportunity to do that. But now how can I do that more on a regular basis?
Yeah, that's an example of where lockdowns really served someone. And?
Retirement is another big issue.
Yeah.
Right? Because what we've seen is purpose was related to, well, when I retire, I can do this.
Like golfing, travelling, but lockdown restrictions have really have had to reevaluate people's thought processes around retirement.
Yeah, because now you can't travel as many places that you wanted to do. Okay, I'm going to travel the world. Example is what's my my retirement bucket list.
Yeah.
I can't do that anymore. So, okay, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
What am I, and that really creates stress and anxiety for a lot of people when they're starting to think options are being closed off.
Yes.
And that's the challenge that people have been facing. So that's a couple of examples that I've seen coming into the practice from my patient. G, tell us a little bit about what you've seen.
It's interesting. I think family has a consistent theme through this all. I think that's because lockdown has created that situation where families are either completely isolated or in one space altogether. What I want to share with you is a couple. One of them is the empty nest. So where purpose is defined by, many parents will probably relate to this, purpose is defined by our core values being providing for our families, raising a family. And we've found that our youngsters have left the nest. It's created 2 scenarios. Personally speaking, it's created a scenario where I'm worried that my child is alone and isolated, perhaps going to university. So I've seen lots of university students that have come through our service, and they found themselves in university digs, or it could be a house full of students but still feeling quite isolated then in their own rooms with strangers. So that's the first one. Second one, empty nest, for those parents where children have fled the nest and they're left with, well, what am I supposed to do now? And I can really relate to that because my daughter left the nest a couple of years ago, and I thought I had it sorted. I thought, yeah, I've got a job, I'm working, I've got projects on the side, I've got, academics, so I'm studying, I'll be fine. And then all of a sudden, no daughter, and I'm like, what am I doing all this for? It was a real dark moment, and I know that a lot of women can relate to this. And, these are some of the clients I've had coming through. One last one I want to share, which just comes to mind, is again, based on what you said is your first example. Again, parents, looking after their children at home, only to rediscover that their line of work or their profession really doesn't serve their cause anymore. They want to spend more time at home with their young children. And I've had several parents redesign their careers and launch their own businesses, which is really inspiring.
Well, it's become super powerful then.
Yeah.
One thing I also just want to touch on is the empty nest and then coming back. Because in some respects, parents have said, okay, kids are off to university now. That's going to free up time and space to do the things that I do when talking about purpose. But with all the challenges with the university and studying online and all that sort of stuff, kids will say, well, I don't need to go to university now. I can do all the study at home. So coming back home, so still being in the home space and studying, whilst everyone else is potentially working from home as well, that's created a state of non-moval.
Yeah, it's almost a state of lockdown within ourselves, within a lockdown. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
It's like we become quite stuck in that, I had X, Y, and Z mapped, but now this has disturbed that process. So it becomes stuck.
Yeah, so you're in a stuck state, and with that stuck state, then it's, okay, there's the fridge. Comfort food, biscuits, snacks, and then now everyone...
I shouldn't laugh, yes, that's true.
Now everyone in the family's doing it.
It's comfort eating. It actually helps me think. I mean, I'm guilty. I do go for. So it's natural.
Gee,
I'm going to be real.
Gee, if you ever want a session with me, you just book it in. I'm pretty busy at the moment.
But they're healthy options. They're healthy options. But I'm just being real about this, right? We're coaches, but I can really relate to what people are going through.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Important to note, G likes cakes and biscuits.
No, not cakes and biscuits. I'm really into the rice cakes and the hummus.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Yeah, it's healthy alternatives. I know. Okay, jokes aside, let's get back to purpose. Now, purpose isn't just about doing. For me, it's about undoing. It's about pressing that pause button and stepping into your being and really asking yourself, what serves my passion? What ignites this heart? And then, as the saying goes, pursue your passion and the rest, your purpose, will fall into place.
So with that in mind, here's a simple exercise you can do. Take 2 pieces of paper. You may need a couple more, but just start with 2. On the first page, pretty simple. Write down your typical day. Mm-hmm. On the second page, you're going to write down what your perfect day looks like. And you're going to journal around this, around your 4 domains: your health, your relationships, your time and money freedom, and your vocation. And just sit with this. It may not come to you straight away, but you'll have an idea, you'll have a base you can work with. Just sit with this. And if nothing comes out straight away, don't worry about it. Just take the time, come back to it the next day and just sit with it. And over time, you'll start to craft something. And then from that perfect day, you'll then start to think about, well, what does a perfect week look like? What does a perfect month look like? What does a perfect year look like? And then out to 3 years. Now, this is a great exercise to get you on the path of rediscovering what your inner purpose is. And I find it works well with anyone from any walk of life. It's a great starting point to discover who you really are.
Yeah, Todd, it's really effective. And it's not so much what, there's a word there, perfect. It's how that resonates with the individual. But the main point of the exercise is to have a vision. And a lot of my clients have gone away with this exercise. And I've always said to them, you can just write some words down that resonate with you, or use pictures, because it's about the visual. It's about stepping outside of that logical left side hemisphere and changing the narrative by stepping into your creative hemisphere, and really getting in touch with that super consciousness.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful, Judy.
It's that heart-led approach. So it's stop thinking. And, for those out there, for the audience who are overthinkers, take a walk. Get out into some fresh air, perhaps go swimming if you enjoy swimming. A great exercise a lot of my patients have done is just the floating. It's surrendering and just looking up at the sky. Or you may want to just lie on a piece of grass and just, have your spine on the ground, looking up at the sky and just allowing yourself to dream. And that's okay, because that's going to connect you with your creative spirit. And that's where the process really begins.
It does, and it's such a powerful process.
Another exercise is shifting your perspective on purpose. So something like stepping into a different environment or space. It could be connecting with a different community, connecting with different people outside of your circle, to have different conversations that may lead to something, reframing your skill set and offering to help others. Right now, it's really needed. So donating your time to add value to other people who may be suffering. So we've also got the social prescribing agenda. That is huge. This is communities or individual people coming together to create new communities in service to others. So this is a really good way to navigate or change your narrative on finding purpose.
And it'll give you that time, even whilst you're doing it, it'll give you time to think about, again, that space that you need.
Yeah.
She talked about, lying on the grass, going for a swim, just floating. This also gives you another time to think about your exercise, the typical day, perfect day, when you've got some more space and more energy to come through to give you some inspiration. And that can help a lot.
The main aim is to be able to recognize what ignites that heart, because it's through that we'll be inspired to find our purpose from wherever we are.
And also within the perfect day exercise, conversations. You're having conversations with people as well.
That matter.
Yeah. Because that's one of the things going to shape the rest of your life, really. So when you think about that perfect day exercise, have those conversations with the people that matter in your relation, friends, family, because that's going to also start to bring out their energy and what their perfect day looks like. And then you align the core values together, then you've got something that really means something to everybody. And that's part of really deciding where you want to be. And decide really is about cutting away from. So great exercise, great information there.
So if you want to explore this topic further, or any elements of our conversation today, that's what we're here to facilitate as health and wellbeing coaches. However, before we finish this conversation, Todd, I'd like to leave the audience with perhaps an alternative approach to finding purpose that's really served me over the past 13 years. And it may be a little bit alien to many of the listeners, but I think it's probably appropriate to introduce it right now. Many of you may know that I've been studying the authentic practice of feng shui and Chinese astrology. And probably haven't got enough time to go through it here, but what it provided for me when I was at crossroads in my life was a system or a language of symbols or numerology, numbers, that really helped me to define the situations or the patterns I kept attracting in life, how to break them, to understand the elements of my own nature, and also to see my purpose in life, which was very empowering because it really sits well with our strengths, our characters, and helps us to reframe or change the narrative of our personal autobiography. It's a very powerful technique. So for any of our listeners out there who are interested, I do invite them or encourage them to perhaps explore these alternative approaches that are available.
Sounds fantastic, G. So, G, I think it's a wrap on today's conversation about lockdown and purpose.
It is. Where does time go?
Yeah, it flies, G.
It does. If you've enjoyed today's conversation or it's touched a chord, please do get in touch. Leave a comment below if you're watching on YouTube.
Spot on, G. If you're listening on Apple iTunes or Spotify, you can leave us a review and a rating. That helps other people know about the conversations we're having and spreads the message, which is what we're trying to do.
Yeah, we're trying to create that ripple effect. So, with further ado...
No further ado.
My
name is Todd.
And my name's G. Thank
Thanks
you
for
for listening.